Hey Ubers, Vivian here with a mixed media video tutorial. I've been holding on to this passage door die, number 659435 from the Sizzix Tim Holtz Alterations collection. It's been out for a little while, and as soon as it came out, I knew I wanted it, and there's just so much symbolism in a door, and this one's quite cool. I'm actually using it with two acrylic plates here. But in the packaging, it suggests that you do it with one acrylic plate, one cutting pad, which is an acrylic plate, and one crease pad. And I believe the reason for that is because you have these pretty embossed lines in your door, and the impression might come out a little bit better. I forgot to do that. But as you can see here, it turned out really nicely. I used a Strathmore Bristol vellum, which is a nice thick paper, and it worked just fine. I'm also going to be using a layered leaf big sty from Sizzix, Tim Holtz's alterations line as well. It's number 660039. And this one is a big sty, and it comes with an embossing folder. You can see I did some play with this. You can use that leftover as a mask on various paper crafting projects. I'm going to actually use the die cuts, but I've seen a lot of folks using this die recently, and I can see why. It's got some beautiful dramatic style lines on it, and of course it's a big sty, which is really exciting to me. And I love these nature themed dies because I know I can use them for years and years to come. I'm going to cut out some leaves with a scrap piece of cardstock with some print on it. I think I want to have some words and letters that show up through the treatments that I give it. And as you can see here, I'm just taking that scrap and I'm folding it again and again to get as much use out of this one pass through my die cutting machine as possible. And that's sandwiched between my two cutting pads, my acrylic plates. And just for good measure, sometimes I will send it through the machine once or twice. It's totally okay with me that some of these are partial die cuts, because those will end up going along the edges of my canvas. Aren't those beautiful? So you could follow that up with sending it through your big shot with the embossing folder that comes with that die. And if you're curious about how that looks, I have a post on my blog in which I use it that way. This is a new Tim Holtz Alterations Thinlits set, and it's called Paper Snowflakes. It's so beautiful. The amount of detail in these die cuts is really incredible. And I would suggest using the wax paper, using this magnetic platform, and possibly sending your dies through your big shot with an extra shim or two. And I just create a shim by adding in another piece or two of cardstock. So that there's a little bit more pressure on the dies. Because the more intricate the cut, and I think you'll find this with most intricate dies, the more vigilance you have to have when you're sending it through your die cutting machine. So here are some of the dies. Aren't they beautiful? And I think this is where you really can take advantage of the full potential of die cutting. Because imagine trying to cut those shapes out with scissors, and within just a few seconds you get these beautiful shapes using your big shot. So I have a piece of wax paper here that's from my kitchen, and I'm going to sandwich the wax paper between my Thinlits dies and my cardstock. This magnetic platform, I don't know if you can tell through the video, those wafer thin dies just snap right down onto my cutting surface, and that is a really, really handy device, the magnetic platform, because when I'm working in a tight space and I want to get as many cuts as possible in there, I'm going to shove all those dies really close together, and I want to make sure they stay put. And with the magnetic platform, they will. You want to make sure your acrylic plates are in good condition, because if they are warped from many, many uses, that magnetism will alter a little bit and won't be as effective. So you can see on top of the entire sandwich, I just stuck in a few extra scrap pieces just to add a little bit more pressure when those dies go through. Because after years of die cutting, I just expect that when I have an intricate die cut, I'm going to want to take some extra steps to make sure that they pass through with the cut edges cut perfectly. So these die cuts are releasing quite nicely. I'm not having any problems. I'm going to poke out some of those extra pieces. They're coming out really easily. Look how beautiful they are. So here are my die cuts. As an afterthought, I actually cut out a few butterflies from the Sizzix Thinlits die set, number 659766. They're not here, but I'll show you them later. And it's from the Be Thankful set, because I actually wanted to include just a little hint of anticipation of spring, because I've got winter and autumn represented here with the various die cuts that I chose. And I'm just putting a really random application of gesso, intentionally leaving some areas not covered by gesso, because I want some variation in the way my paper surface accepts media. And the areas with the gesso won't absorb as much media as the areas that are gesso-free. Here I have a canvas, and I'm going to work on a canvas today. It's been a really long time since I have, and I'm really excited to do it. I'm just starting to feel well enough to be able to really get into that mode of mixed media crafting. And same deal with my die cuts. I'm just doing a random application. I do know, though, that I will want the perimeter of my canvas to be a little bit lighter, a little bit less receptive to media than the center portion of my canvas. So I'm going to put some gesso more heavily, but still quite random, all along the edges of my canvas. So here you can see I'm just getting a basic idea of where I want to place all my die cuts, what kind of composition I want to have. And I'm going to start inking up all my die cuts. And my suggestion, if you're ever nervous about adding color, or if the color isn't going to work, start light and then go darker. And sort of decide along the way how dark your project is going to be. This is a Cat's Eye Q, and it's got several, it's from Clear Snap, and it's a Cat's Eye Q of pigment ink, and it's in a number of wonderful warm browns and deep browns and wine colors. It's the Rich Rustics set, and I'm starting with the lighter colors to ink up the edges of my die cuts. And I'm going to do that with all of the pieces. I'm going to add some metallic pigment ink to my door, and the primary color of my door is going to be copper, and that's also from Clear Snap. I added in some of the deeper wineish colors to my leaves and some of my snowflakes from the Colorbox Cat's Eye Q in Rich Rustics, and I'm really glad I did. They're so beautiful. And I'm taking this eyedropper of a product called iZink that's also from Clear Snap, and this is in a gold color. It's called Gold, and I'm just moving it around with my finger. It's a very heavy application, and I really like how the swirls are happening on those leaves. I added a little bit of that onto my snowflakes and my butterflies as well as some smooch spritz in copper. I'm wetting my canvas a little bit with several spritzes of water, because for the most part I know I'm not going to really want many spritz marks. I want it to be smooth. And I love using my fingers as a paintbrush. Sometimes in the heat of the moment I don't have the right brush, and I don't want to use a foam brush. I may not want to soil my watercolor brushes that are meant purely for my artwork with watercolor, and so I just use my fingers, and I get a really sort of spontaneous and natural looking background. So that was a few spritzes of Smooch Spritz, and that was in Wineberry, and I'm using another color of iZink, and I'm just tapping a few drops of that on there. I'm also adding a deeper, bluer shade of purple, and this is also Clear Snap Smooch Spritz. This color is called Majestic, I believe, and I'm just blending those two together And I'm having a lot of fun because I have a gessoed surface. It's also wet, and it's very forgiving. So I can move that pigment around without feeling like it's like permanently stuck in one place. And even if I don't like maybe the color is a little too intense in some spots, I can add another spritz of water and erase it for the most part. As my canvas was drying, I had an afterthought that I wanted a little bit more patterns in there. So I actually pushed the length of my finger down into the media, and it created these interesting patterns. So I'm going to adhere all my pieces, my die cuts, with a very thick application of Mod Podge. Um, I like to use a really thick application on the front and the back and sort of run my fingers over all of the die cut pieces. I think a lot of us mixed media enthusiasts are very tactile in our sensibilities, so this becomes a really fun part of the process. I'd like to help these die cuts pop just a little bit more, so I'm going to continue to use the Mod Podge as a blending agent in conjunction with a black marker. This is a Stampers Big Brush pen from Faber-Castell Design Memory Craft in black, very useful color. And as soon as I lay that color down, I'm going over it with another finger, as you can see here, that's been loaded with some Mod Podge. And this is going to help the edges of my die cuts and sort of the path that they create when they're all assembled together like this. It's going to help all of that black color blend in. And because I've already got a pretty much dry layer of Mod Podge on there already, I can take a paper towel and wipe off any extra black that is on the top surface of my die cut if it ends up getting dark, and I don't like that because the Mod Podge is sort of resisting the media. This technique with the marker was taught to me by Stephanie Ackerman. I took a workshop from her a while back. She now has a collection of dies and stamp sets with Sizzix, which is very exciting, and I hope you'll check them out on the Sizzix website. But I really love this technique because it really helps those die cuts pop and lends a very interesting sort of grungy effect to your projects. I decided to stamp a phrase in the bottom corner using some alphabet stamps and some black pigment ink. The phrase is "a door opening." Stamping on canvas is a little tricky. I've got my finger underneath the canvas to sort of support the stamp and make sure I get an impression. It's a phrase from one of my favorite movies, all-time movies. I can watch it over and over again. But I think it's, aside from its significance in the movie, it has so many positive meanings. Possibility, opportunity, hope, courage, change, adventure, a new chapter in life. So when I saw this die, I knew I needed to have it because I actually want to use it for a whole series of projects with different interpretations of what adore means. Here you can see a close-up of these beautiful dramatic die-cut leaves with some of that gold icing smeared on there. My apologies, the Mod Podge hadn't completely dried in the shot, but you can see some of the incredible detail in these die-cut snowflakes, as well as in the door. And here's a shot of the final project. I hope you enjoyed my tutorial today and that I've inspired you to get inky and crafty in your scrap room, and that you'll check out some of these really cool dies available from Sizzix. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.